Hey, what's up guys, Rip here. So today we're going to be covering yet another collapse of a Sweet Baby related game. So here's the relevant headline. So Tales of Kenzera Zhao developer lays off entire team and puts entire games division on hiatus after previously claiming game sales were fine. So this was a game that focused on a diversity related story, and unfortunately its connection to Sweet Baby and other problematic people in the gaming industry really quickened its demise. Now, before we get into the details of this story, I want to take like 30 seconds to sing Kumbaya with you guys and say thank you, because last night we crossed the 700,000 subscriber mark on YouTube. This was a goal I had for much further in the future, and thanks to a lot of positive reception of videos this year, especially videos focusing on some newer topics, we reached this goal much faster. And as always, like once a year spiel here, if you enjoy the content, make sure you subscribe. We're uploading videos daily for over 4 years now, and also put on your notifications for this channel or any channel you enjoy on YouTube, so it makes it harder for YouTube to hide related videos in the algorithm. So once again, thank you guys for hitting this big milestone. So let's get into the story for today. So we're going to be focusing on Surgeon Studios, who created the game relevant to today, Tales of Kenzera Zhao. Now, you can see right here, a day ago, they made a very troubling message saying this: help us bring our vision to life. We've decided to put the work of Surgeon Games division on hiatus while we secure funding for our next project. In the meantime, we've unfortunately had to put our team on notice for redundancy. And basically, we're going to skip down here to this. Our team has created a prototype for a bold new project. It's darker, edgier, and more visceral than our first game, but it retains all Zhao's high-octane combat and cultural depth, and we're looking for a partner. So, things are not going well. They basically, they're putting everyone on hiatus right now, and they're trying to secure more funding for the next project. So clearly, Zhao did not go very well, and the numbers really speak for themselves. But let's focus on this game, right? It has a lot of connections. We're going to get into Sweet Baby in just a second, but you can see right in their own header here all of these very high reviews from various members of the gaming industry. You would think this game is something on fire, right? It would get a big audience, but how do you explain this? So over the half a year or so this game's been out, it had a peak of 287 players, and in the last 24 hours, barely cracked double digits in terms of its 24-hour peak. And you can see that all-time peak happened on release, and then within a few days, it nosedived and pretty much flatlined from there. And nothing that they tried over that course of a few months could revive any legitimate interest into this game. Now, part of that is because of its connection to Sweet Baby. Back earlier this year, Sweet Baby would make a promotional post for this game showing their connection to the client, and people would notice this and add it to the now famous Steam group Sweet Baby Inc. Detected, which really gave this a terrible, terrible connection to Sweet Baby, because this game would launch in April. So at that point, we're already deep into the criticism of Sweet Baby. A lot of people, millions of people, were aware of this company, and they were not interested in anything associated with them, and that would include Zhao as well. And to make things even crazier, the founder of the studio, Salim, was actually a partner with the founders of Sweet Baby, David Bedard and Kim Belair, alongside another employee, Amy Lee Shaw. And that company they created is, of course, Sweet Baby. And furthermore, it was actually Salim who would resign from his role as the director of the company in March, just a month before they were going to launch this game with the other studio. So there is a very clear connection to Sweet Baby here, and that would prove to be a very negative connection. Now, as sales were starting to plummet and really flatline in terms of the concurrent number of players, the founder of the relevant studio, Abu Bakr Salim, would try to, generate some hype, try to revive something, and also deflect some of the blame this game is receiving for its poor performance. So he would make this video tweet here saying a needed message, and look at the amount of attention and support this got. Nearly 2 million views and 14,000 likes, largely from other people in the games industry and games journalists. But let's hear what he had to say about some things going around in the industry and towards that game at the time back in May of this year, about 1 month after the game was released.
It was one of our goals from the outset to have this positive impact, right? But at the same time, we are being faced with constant, targeted harassment from people who see diversity as a threat. And from people who look across the vast landscape of modern media and decide that anything that doesn't speak to them or centers around them is unnecessary and inauthentic. And look, there's always a reason why diverse stories can't exist. You know, it's always either we're doing it the wrong way, or it's just there to tick boxes.
So he obviously begins with the deflection, saying everything that they're facing is targeted harassment. We've heard the exact same thing from Sweet Baby themselves many times, especially through its CEO, where they basically paint any criticism of their company or games they're associated with as targeted harassment, while of course not acknowledging the actual targeted harassment that began the entire kickback against Sweet Baby when one of its employees, Chris Kindred, would start a harassment and false flag campaign against Cabrutus, the leader of Sweet Baby Inc. Detected. Now going forward, he talks about people hating diversity in games. And one of the things he doesn't really acknowledge is a lot of what people hate is forced diversity, when it seems that people are checking boxes, as he says. And I think that's very obvious in a lot of games where they're making decisions simply to check boxes and push whatever agenda they support. Now, with this game itself, I don't think this might have been the most egregious example of forced diversity or anything. It just seemed like a diverse story. I just don't think it really resonated with a lot of people and didn't appeal to a lot of people. Sometimes games can have a pure diversity-centered message and just not connect to people. Just because something is authentically diverse or anything like that doesn't mean it's going to succeed. Again, as I always say, if you're focusing on diversity as a selling point as for your game, you're probably going to struggle really badly. Now, let's continue on. He would say some further things. Two main points I want to highlight right here.
I'm going to put my money where my mouth is. So starting today on Switch, shout out to Nintendo for acting fast on this. You know, I'm lowering that bar of entry further by dropping the price of ZOW to less than $15. Now, I genuinely believe in the power that games have to bring us close together. And I believe that, you know, this is, you know, just one way that I can show you how serious I am about this. Look, games are for everyone. Like, diverse games, then they're not about taking something away from you. They're about adding something in.
So there's two things. I want to start with the latter point of what he said, talking about these stories being for everyone, diverse stories being for everyone. And I would say, again, the connection to Sweet Baby and some other people in the industry is something that really hamstringed anything he's going for here. Like, unfortunately, your connection to Sweet Baby is going to reflect upon the values some of their employees have shared over the years. I mean, we've had multiple employees from their company make disparaging comments not only about white people, but also against Jewish people, gay people, as well as black people as well. Like, we've seen all kinds of slurs they've said, trying to exclude certain people from viewing their games, or you know, outright saying that their games are not meant for white people, for example. And that is a very off-putting thing for a lot of people, right? They don't feel welcomed when it comes to anything associated with Sweet Baby. And honestly, why would they? None of these things have ever been acknowledged. None of these disparaging comments have been met with any acknowledgement or any punishment from Sweet Baby towards its own employees. And going further, he talks about discounting the price of this game. And he tries to frame it in, I think, a pretty smart way. He's trying to make it seem like it's done to lower the bar to make sure everyone can go out and buy this game, because it's basically the price of a pizza at that point, like $15, right? And I think the way he frames it is smart, but I think the reality is we all know at that point, we're in March, it's been a month, the game is already flatlined. Like, it's probably in the, you know, double digits, barely at that point in terms of player count, and they're trying to make a move to boost the numbers a little bit, right? It seemed like it was their shot in the dark, their Hail Mary pass to try to make something happen with this game, and it really didn't work. I mean, if you look at the actual the chart here with the sales numbers, I mean, look, we're in May here. They did the discount, and nothing really happened. It just kind of stagnated during that period. It really didn't work. However, Salim would go on to Twitter and in quotes say this: "The game isn't selling well," end quote. Also false. I've addressed this on and Ask Me Anything Reddit. The numbers some are circulating are a fraction of our actual playership, and they're being shared in bad faith by people who are wanting to provide proof that their harassment campaign has been successful in punishing us for daring to take up space. So again, I don't understand, even if real, how a harassment campaign would bar people from trying to buy your game. If there's genuine interest, how would these bad actors have anything to do with their ability to purchase it? Like, are they physically stopping people from buying the game? I don't think so. And this idea that the numbers are good, like, come on. I know there is not a single developer out there who will come out and say, yeah, the numbers are bad, we're really struggling. They have to try to frame things in a positive light. But at this point, on June 2nd, after they already discounted it to about $15, this is just cope, right? They're trying to save their image. And I genuinely believe that the discounted price only served one thing, and that's an agenda push. So if you look at some of the Steam numbers, right, especially the reviews, they're very strange. This is not like an exact science or anything like that, but looking at the very positive reviews, 518 of them versus the next tier, mostly positive, only 22, versus also the player counts throughout the history of this game, something doesn't really add up, right? How does a game with such a low player count have such a high number of very positive reviews? I think the discount and also the amount of support this game's gotten from games journalists and other members of the industry made this artificial boom in the positive reviews, but didn't translate to actual players. I think a lot of people were supporting this game to support some kind of an agenda. They're pushing whatever narrative they're trying to push, and I think they saw the cheap price of this game and they decided to buy it and give a flimsy review to prove a point, right? They're trying to say, you know, these chud gamers aren't going to win. We saw so many people in the gaming industry and games journalists push this game really, really hard. And I think at the end of the day, it just hurt this product even more. The association with Sweet Baby was already like the first shot, but the association with bad actors in the gaming industry was the kill shot. Like, that's what really solidified it. The more that they push this game, the more it turned people off from even trying it. Because nobody wants to look at these games journalists who actively make disparaging comments about gamers all the time. Nobody wants to hear their recommendations. Anything they recommend is going to be treated as something to avoid. And I think that actually hurt Zhao even more in this scenario. And another thing I want to point out too, literally the same time that he made the comments about this game selling really well despite the claims of these bad actors out there, Surgeon Studios would announce that they were doing a round of layoffs. 12 people were being laid off by the company, clearly because things weren't going very well. This was their big game at the time. I mean, 1 + 1 = 2 in this situation. Bad sales, layoffs, that tells us exactly what we need to know about the state of the company at that time. But anyways, that's going to do it for this story. Definitely a lesson, a series of lessons to be learned about the gaming industry and how people feel about certain connections that studios have. And I think this game was hamstringed greatly by its connection to not only Sweet Baby, but also some bad actors in the gaming industry and among games journalists. But for now, that's going to do it for this video. As always, feel free to share your thoughts about today's topics in the comment section down below. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next time.